a naturally warm day in July. The Forest Service called late in the afternoon that a fire had escaped a cabin. They wanted the power lines de-energized so that the firefighters weren't at more risk.
When you start fighting a wildfire, there's a lot of chaos, a lot of things going on. You don't know if wire's energized or not. And so from our standpoint, we wanted to make the mountain as safe as we possibly could.
That originated in the Rimrock Retreat area, and it was basically really good circumstances to contribute to a fire. Arid, hot climate, and a lot of fuel to serve the fire.
It just kept expanding and expanding, and on a real steep face going into the canyon, it got in there real bad.
And as it became a federally managed wildfire, we continued to work with local agencies to ensure that we were getting the most up-to-date information, as well as when we could potentially get in. And so very early on to the fire, they allowed us to be able to get a drone in.
So before we were even allowed to step foot in the area, we were able to fly and assess the damage, which helped us in knowing the material and things that we would have to replace.
So our engineering department started working with manufacturers to make sure that we had poles available to us. Our operations team started making sure that we had the appropriate equipment and teams to start setting those poles.
The fire had burned 8 structures down, so everybody was without power at that stage.
We instantly went into action. When we were finally able to get in 4 weeks after the fire started, and at this point we had over 440 accounts that were off, and we were able to get everybody energized 2 weeks after we were able to get in. We were anticipating it to be greater than 3 months.
Our entire team worked to the wee hours trying to get the power back on. Everybody really played their part.
It was just a great team effort, and surprisingly we were able to beat our early estimates by quite a bit. So I just think it demonstrates for our membership, our willingness to do anything we can.
On to the widening of Van Giesen here. I think the city and the state have partnered on widening Van Giesen. So we've got poles that are going to be in the way. They're putting in a roundabout at each of the intersections. So we have poles that have to move. We have some housing that's more complete and just finished and people are starting to move into. And then we'll go on to the work site there at where they're building the new facility. Yeah, so it's booming pretty well with no signs of slowing down. So it's an exciting time, is one of the reasons it's an exciting time to be in our industry.
Gaining new load is always beneficial to Benton REA, whether it's residential, commercial, or industrial. It makes our service area more desirable for our members. New businesses bring jobs, they bring a quality of life in the communities that they live and that they work, and that's important. So we work with local ports, cities, other economic development organizations to help bring in new businesses. Benton REA is a partner in that. We're always ready to help in any way that we can. We can come to them and meet with them when they're trying to choose a community and talk to them about, what Benton REA can provide for them as far as power.
We do a good job of trying to support our communities, right? Bringing something as essential as power to each, whether it's a business or a home. Growth is important to us, and us being prepared for that growth is a key element of it.
One of the 7 cooperative principles is concern for community. Any investment that Benton REA makes to our reliability and sustainability is always great for all of our members.
I'm proud of delivering electricity to homes and businesses and keeping the power on, right? And keep making sure everybody has lights and electricity at home. Basically, nothing was around here when we built it, and the community has really grown up around it, and it's going to continue to do so.
What prompted us to take a more proactive approach to our grid reliability and being able to help mitigate our wildfire risk was just the overall safety of our membership.
We live in a very arid part of the country. Our folks, our membership, their last line of defense in a lot of instances is that 3-phase pump. If we're going to proactively de-energize the line so that a fire is not caused by our line, they've got no power, they've got no pump. So we're kind of taking the approach that we will try to keep the power on as long as possible.
Our system is diverse. It spans 2 counties, partially 3, and in those different geographic regions, the needs are different.
And so what we started doing was what's going to have the most amount of impact to our membership today. And the first one was what portions of our grid were at greatest risk. And then how do we make sure that we are then reducing those size of potential outages? That's where we come in with a recloser. A recloser is a device that is constantly looking for nuisance trips. Things like a tree limb that's brushing a power line or a squirrel that goes from phase to phase. That recloser sees that fault, and in order to protect the system and more importantly our membership, it opens and de-energizes the entire circuit. But then after a few seconds, it said, I wonder if the tree is no longer there or if the squirrel is gone. And then it recloses and re-energizes the circuit. And it'll do that a couple of times before it finally locks out and we have to go and patrol and see what the actual issue is. But then if a tree falls into a line and it stays there and we reclose multiple times, then it has a higher potential of causing a fire to spread. And so we program those reclosers in very specific ways. So then it's protecting the system. And so where we would have an outage that might take us 6 or 7 hours to restore, now we have an outage that would take an hour to restore.
The new reclosers provide better insight into what the system's doing through SCADA, which is supervisory control and data acquisition.
Which means we have eyeballs in the office of what's happening in the system, so you can actually get that patrol done faster. Just going into fire season this year, I feel far more confident than I did previous years.
And then also the materials that we're using. We've started using fiberglass poles, ductile iron poles, fiberglass cross arms, and fuses that are non-expulsion. So all of those things should help.
I think they're right in line the way we've always operated. Member. We're going to do a lot of things, but those things come at a cost. So if we can do them without affecting rates, all the better.
We want to make sure that we're providing the best value for our membership, but at the same time that we're not charging them very high fees or rates. And so what we do is we look for opportunities to use federal funds or state funds, and that is going to be a huge benefit to our membership.
That took manpower and time to apply for that grant. There's a lot of details that go into it. So I just think it demonstrates our willingness to do anything we can to do better, faster, and more to improve the system. Consequently, we're taking a more proactive approach.
Our GIS team and the leadership team focused on creating a map that identifies those areas that are much more prone to wildfires. And so it helped us pinpoint the areas that we want to focus in on first. And so it'll just be a tiered approach where eventually we can increase our reliability for the entire membership.
When it comes down to it, we want to be wise stewards of the money that we are given and how we work with the membership as true partners, as a cooperative is designed to do for the success of everybody. And so with that, I always ask patience, kindness, especially during outages when our crews are out working at 2 a.m. in the morning trying to find a problem with a small flashlight. They're doing the best that they can.
They're a bunch of hardworking guys, and they aren't afraid to work all night. And you never, when you get out, and you never know what you run into, right? Like from vehicle versus pole accidents that may be reported or may not be, right? And you just come across them. Or when we have windstorms, especially like we experienced, a few days ago, all bets are off. We've shown up to places and trampolines have been in the power line creating outages. We get a lot of Mylar balloons, and we've even had hot air balloons accidentally. Yeah, I guess just really hard-working guys.
I think what's been the most rewarding is knowing that the entire co-op as a team is trying to do their best to increase the experience overall for our community.
I love the electric utility. I'm a 3rd generation electrical engineer. I've been doing this a long time, and I've watched my family do it even longer. If I have a small part of keeping the lights on every day, I feel fulfilled every time I go home. Because when it comes down to it, we want to make sure that we're consistently looking for opportunities to do what we do best, and that's provide electricity reliably and safely to our membership.